transportation is something that the local and state governments can definitely invest on, but it's also a cultural thing. You know, we all know cities where it's expected to use the public transportation, right? And to not, you don't have to think about it. You know, you just go use the buses or the subways or whatever. So that is something where when the local authorities or the investment groups, private or public, come in and offer those opportunities, we then have to use them, right? And at first, they may not be as sexy as my, whatever car I drive, right? But we have to take that step, right? So I look forward to that time where things are available that we can use, because it's going to require an effort, a collective effort, to take advantage of those. So then we can start seeing that impact, so that we can see what we're going to be leaving, like you said earlier, to the future generations, right? So what are some of the projects that are coming up over here?
All right, so there's a company out of Denmark called Bigadan, right? Mm-hmm. The company here will be called Orlando Bigadan. They're getting ready to construct and commission a biofuel plant near our community, right? And that's going to be to me a game changer for Central Florida, right? Because for people that compost, for businesses that want to compost, hotels, restaurant, this plant will be able to receive compost in mass, right? Mass volumes, hundreds of tons, which is going to be great, right? That's definitely going to be a big factor for us here in a sustainable direction.
Is that a first of a kind here, or are there smaller versions of that already available?
Nothing of Yeah, this is going to be the first of
First
a
one.
kind. Yeah.
So talk a little bit about biofuels for the audience. What do you mean when you say biofuel?
So it could be, biofuel is liquid or gas, right? It's a fuel. It's more sustainable. It's natural, right? Because it's coming from compost, right, or food waste that is of an octane that can move a vehicle, right? So vehicles can move off of this fuel, right?
So that will be for the case of the new vehicles that are biofuel, that can accept a biofuel grade type of gasoline or whatever. So that is the model. There is the plant, but actually the model is more commercial than for you and I initially, right? Because there's a ton of commercial equipment that actually uses biofuel, right? And that probably will be the first target, right? But over time, you can see that could expand into other areas, and it comes solely from compostable materials, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So where do you see us going? Where should we go with all this?
You being here in Lake Nona or the world?
How about both?
Where do I see us going? I need to elaborate on that.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, I have dreams of being able to, like you said, go outside, be able to see, the transportation that is available. I love for us to be able to do a little bit better on recycling. You read all the time that a lot of the recycling ends up in the trash because of whether it's contamination or mislabeling or misclassified, right? I love for us to be able to do better at that. You mentioned the community garden. We do have one here in Laureate Park, but that needs to grow, right? And more people need to use it, right? And more people need to contribute to it, right?
So I think I live across from it, It
Yeah.
is. One thing, it's not underused.
That's good.
I think we need more. Like my neighbors, like they grow potatoes, broccoli. I mean, anything you can think of, fruits. You have to fight for a location, and it's not underused.
So how does it work? What's the model? I mean, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, it's pretty much ran by the HOA, and we have someone in the neighborhood that kind of leads it, right? And you go in there and you try to get a spot, right? And then you kind of rotate spots as well, right?
Okay, so you're growing your own thing.
Correct.
Okay. And I guess if you have too much, then you can share with others. Okay. How big is it?
In terms
Roughly?
of feet, so 40 by 40 is it's not huge.
Okay, well,
yeah.
but I mean, it's good enough. You know, it's a good start. This company you mentioned, Bigadan, it's a very large corporation. They're very big in Europe, right? And they're doing all kinds of different things, you know, specifically in this biofuel of reusing compostable material, organic material into making reusable fuel. But that's not all there is. I mean, there's many other opportunities in order to contribute. Can you think of any other things that's outside of biofuel that will contribute to the sustainability movement that we're trying to push?
Better waste management practices. You know, you touched on you like to see more recycling. Here, food waste is still an option, right? It's not mandatory. Not that it should be mandatory, but again, we don't really have a location where you can dump it in mass, right? Like you have a couple of local companies. You have like Old Town Compost, you know, and companies like that where you can call them and they'll collect it from, you know, similar to your door-to-door service like the city and the county offers, right? So that is a current option too, right? Like if you wanted to get rid of your food waste, you could call the Old Town Compost and they'll come and they'll, you know, pick it up from your house for you. But yeah, you know, better waste management practices for sure is going to help with our, you know, sustainability efforts.
So for your group, you know, Nona Enviro Group, what is it that you can tell people as far as what you do now and what you'll be doing in the future to do your part for the community?
So like I said, you know, I really started my business, right, to help businesses make better waste management decisions, right, to make it more of a priority. Because people really don't pay attention to it, right? It's not urgent. So just, you know, helping them to be more aware of regulations, you know, state, local policies. You know, that might be me coming in and doing an audit, you know, periodically. Also, I am in the valet trash business, right? So we pick up trash, recycle, and food waste.
What's the advantage? I mean, I'm curious about this, and we haven't talked about this, and if you have, I forgot, but you know, you say, you know, you're helping businesses, you know, make better decisions when it comes to their waste. A lot of those businesses are probably restaurants, right? Because restaurants, you know, they produce a lot of waste. Are there incentives in place for restaurants to actually process their waste better? And if not, you know, probably something that we should work on with our officials, right?
Yeah. Currently, I don't think there is much incentives. That is something that I am working on.
No, well, that's good. That's good. I mean, because that restaurants probably are, you know, on a daily basis, the number one producers of trash that could be reused fairly easily. in places like the upcoming plant that Big Eden is gonna be building over here, right? So that, creating that level of awareness, creating that level of education, and then also in addition to the incentives, right? For them to be able to do that so that it becomes now more of the norm as opposed to a one-off.
And that is one of the conversations I have had with Big Eden as well. Like they have some ideas of policies that we're going to be able to work on collectively as an incentive to clients.
Okay. Well, you mentioned your little girls, that they know what to do. Can you expand on that? Like, what have you indoctrinated them on? Because it's obviously you were the one who did that, right?
Yeah, I was surprised.
Because they're watching right now, so you know.
I was surprised. So, I go, typically on Earth Day, I'll go to the school, and talk about sustainability and recycling, and it's like they're telling me more than I know, right? Which is surprising, right? Like they're on it.
That's wonderful, though. So they're actually keeping you in line.
They are.
Daddy, you can't throw that out.
I know.
That's recyclable. All right. No, that's single-use plastic. Is that something that you practice at home? I mean, do you reduce what you buy? Whether it's paper, plastic, single-use stuff.
Yeah. So, I wouldn't consider myself to be an extremist, but I don't buy paper products, right? So I don't buy paper plates, plastic utensils. I still use toilet paper and paper towels.
Well, I think we all have to.
But
I hope you do.
yeah. But yeah, I try to not buy those products, right?
I would like to open. I know I was asked last night at the Chamber of Commerce event to make sure that we open up for questions because there's a lot of your friends here.
I see.
And I want to put you in the spot. We don't have a microphone right now, so if you can ask a question, then I'll repeat it so that folks online can actually hear it. This is the time to do it. Any questions for Wayne or comments? Where are you? You were all there. Yes. So the question is, as far as incentives for restaurants, what are they? Or what could they be?
I can't elaborate too much on it, but what I will say is we're working on an incentive where it's not going to cost the restaurants or any of the potential clients more money.
So it could be as easy as some sort of tax break, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, it can be something that they have to make, a significant investment, because then you have to talk about returning them that investment and so forth, and it could put a kink in their economic model, right? But there's probably some combination of tax breaks and other types of incentives, in order for that to be appealing to a large restaurant as well as to a small. I think that's probably one of the things where we sometimes struggle is when incentives are developed that work really well for a certain type of business, but it doesn't work very well for, the smaller, or it work well for the small one, but it doesn't work as well for the large one. So something to think about, something to write down there as you work with the team of private and public officials that you're working on. Any other questions? Yes. Oh, look at that. We have all kinds of questions. Ladies first, please. All right. So let me summarize that. And is there more value when it comes to sustainability if us as individuals get with the program and actually start doing our part collectively versus the large businesses or, medium, small, large businesses do their part? Which one gives us the biggest bang for the buck?
That's a good question.
She knows.
I know.
She's been thinking about this since yesterday.
So this is what I think.
Wayne's World.
Yeah,
Let's go.
I think I think it starts with the individual, right? Because we make the community. We work. You know, some of us are business owners. Some of us work in these restaurants. So if you, as the individual, have the knowledge, and you have these policies and practices in place, when you go to work, you're going to educate your employees and friends of, hey, this is how we should be doing it, et cetera. So I think it starts with the individuals.
Oh, I tend to agree with you. I mean, we've had that conversation, you and I. We choose to live here in Lake Nona. We choose to work here in Lake Nona. We do everything here in Lake Nona. Tavistock has done a great job at laying out this planned community, but they're not going to create the community. We've seen that, we know that. That's not a dig, that's just a reality. They're a developer of land. They develop the land. It is up to us to make the community and to actually get involved and to actually make a difference on a daily basis. So I think in the long term, I would agree with you. Midterm and long term, it's probably a bigger bang for the buck if we all do our small part. We had another question here, Mark. Yeah, so the question is when it comes to biofuel, how do you see the technology helping, now and in the future, that process of not only the creation of the biofuel, but all the steps that have to be taken before that to separate what comes into that facility so that the process actually is lower in price and it can produce the maximum quantity of fuel that waste can produce. And is AI part of that ecosystem?
I definitely see AI being part of the system. In terms of the product, I'm going to say that, using this biofuel plant that's coming as an example, right? The first few months to a year is going to be more of a trial, right? I mean, like they have they have years of experience with this, but they're on different soil, they're in a different environment. It's going to be a trial to get that product, right? And once they get to the sweet spot of what their finesse product is, then you can figure out, all right, well, we don't need this, we don't need that. At that time, definitely technology, AI, as well as chemists, right? Mm-hmm. And people that are in the business of, biofuel and plant and processing will help, right? Knowledge, education, technology will all be major factors in that.
That's actually a good point, and I didn't think about it until you just said so, that the actual details of the process will, by default, look different from community to community because of what the community produces as waste. What we produce as waste here in Lake Nona in Orlando could be distinctly different than what gets produced in Arizona, right? Or in Wisconsin, right? So it is a function of what the society consumes, what the society throws away, what's going to determine what can be done on the other side, right? So that's a good question. You had a question over here? So the question is in the advent of, again, for people online, in advent of the community Sunbridge, for those people who don't know, we have a community here that is being planned, is being built already, in fact. It's about 3 times the size of Lake Nona. And those of you who don't know the size of Lake Nona, it's about 80% of what Manhattan is, roughly, right? So 3 times that, actually a lot more waste, right? So what are some of the things that need to be in place? What are some of the things that we need to be thinking about as we're building that community so that it's not 3 times waste, but 3 times opportunity to create something with that waste?
I know Sunbridge already has some practices in place. I need to do more research to find out all the details of it, but I know for sure they have community gardens that are larger than what we have here, right? So that was one lessons learned from here, right? That, all right, to you and Glenn's point, it is going to be 3 times the size of here. So we need to make sure we have gardens for the population. Like we touched on before, I think the more people being educated and actually using composters or using the food waste, removal system, hiring an Oton compost or similar, is going to help with the reduction of waste too, right? Again, being more educated or educating yourself on items that can actually be recycled, right? That I know for a fact when I dump this, it is going to be recycled when it makes it to the landfill. Just all those measures are going to help.
And they've also done a few things with solar, right? They're doing quite a bit of work at Sunbridge with solar. In fact, in the beginning, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that all the homes were coming with solar power, and you actually had to pay to take it off, right? Which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
So they already started with some new ideas as the lessons learned from this community over here. Any other questions from the crowd? Wayne has been the person that's gotten the most questions so far this year on this podcast.
I realized that. I wasn't going to say anything.
And he's drawn the biggest crowd so far too, so kudos to that. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you for being here. It was a much pleasure to have you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.